Hey, what's up guys, Davis here, and today I'll be unboxing and reviewing the new Galaxy A56 5G. The A56 5G is the replacement for the Galaxy A55 5G from last year and comes with a few notable improvements, as we shall see later in the video. So let's start off with unboxing. So to unbox this device, you'll have to just tear off the stickers at the bottom and at the top, but you actually don't need to tear the one at the top here. You only need to tear the bottom, and then you can just open the box. As I'm going to show you guys. So just pull it up like that. You can just lift it up. So that's how the phone comes packaged. So I'll just put it back in the box. Obviously I've been testing it out to be able to review it, but yeah, that's how you get the device in the box. And you can just pull it out, and this time with no plastic wrapping, you just have a paper covering the screen. So we shall get back to the phone in a bit. Let's go ahead and see what we get in the box with the device right here. So you don't get much. You get your SIM ejector tool here with this box in the box, and as usual you get your USB-C to C cable for your data transfer and charging, and you don't get a charger in the box obviously, and you use a manuals as per usual. So you don't get a charger in the box, you don't get earphones, you don't get a case. That's the new reality for this one unboxings. Very boring. So that's for the unboxing of the device. So let's move on to the device itself for now. And you just have to peel this off, just like that. Very satisfying. But yeah, that's all that you get in the box. The device itself, the cable, the USB-C to C cable, and the SIM ejector tool, and maybe the user manual. That's what you get in the box. And the device I have here is the awesome graphite color. So let's move on. So moving on to the review of the device, and this time in the review I'm going to be talking about the different aspects of the phone, such as the design, build quality, the display, the performance, the software and user experience, the cameras, the battery life, and the audio, also the connectivity, and some other features, plus obviously the pricing, which is very important. And at the end of the video I'll be giving you guys the pros and cons and my conclusion on what I think about this device. Right, so we're going to start off with the design and build quality of the device. So and the color I have here is the awesome graphite, and I also get some other colors, some other color options. For example, you have the awesome pink, awesome olive, and the awesome white. So in general you have 4 color options to choose from. And up front here you get Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which is nice, and also at the back Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. You also get your earpiece plus secondary loudspeaker. So this earpiece doubles up as your secondary loudspeaker to make the stereo setup, right? And at the back here you also get your triple camera setup and flash with some Samsung branding at the bottom here, as you guys can tell. So the frame of the phone is made of metal, aluminium in particular, and up top here you get your dual mics, and at the bottom you get your dual SIM tray that doesn't have space for an SD card, unfortunately. So Samsung took that away for the first time in the A series. You don't have SD card support, right? And I also get your USB-C 2.0 charging port and your main loudspeaker. You also get dual mics, so that makes it total 4 mics, which is interesting. Hopefully it's going to have very good audio. When it comes to the right side of the phone here, you get your button island that houses the power button, and the volume rocker. On the left side of the phone you get nothing, so it's clean right there. And generally I'll say the design of the phone is really solid, and it feels like it weighs less than the A54 which I was using for some reason, maybe because it's larger physically. Also, I didn't mention this is actually 6.7 inches, so it's very massive and a big jump. I didn't review the A55 from last year, so most of these things are new to me. Yeah, so it's a very massive display, and I actually prefer big displays personally, so it's a big jump for me and I like it. And the phone weighs around 198 grams. Yeah, you also have IP67 water and dust resistance. Overall, the phone feels really premium and gives you a feel of like the iPhones, you know, with this flat side. And given that it's now bigger, the display is now bigger and wider, Yeah, it really feels like, you know, something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's the feel that you get with this phone. Yeah, so generally I'll say that for the design of the phone, it's really nice. I'm really impressed with it. You know, coming from the A54, really good. The only thing that maybe I'm not too pleased with when it comes to the design is the camera bump is now bigger, and even when you use a case, it still rocks on the, you know, on top of the table. As you guys can tell, if I'm to put it down here, really low, rocks badly. So if you're not a person who's using a case, it's going to even be terrible. But even with the case, you still get a little bit of rattle every time you know, maybe pressing it or doing something on top of the table. So whereas it looks nice, I've got to say that the camera, the design generally looks really good, you know, with this metal shimmer that you get around the camera and all. But when it comes to being functional, it's not the best experience. You know, they would have slimmed it down a little bit more, but generally the design is really good. So that's the only complaint I have when it comes to the design of the phone. And maybe when we move on to the display, yeah, I'll be talking about the bezels, which is the only other thing that I don't feel like about the design of this phone, right? So for the design, I'll generally say it's a pro, it's a plus. It really looks good and feels good in the hand as well. So someone looks at this phone, they're going to actually, I feel like actually this phone looks better than the E series, something like the S25 Plus. Looks better than it in terms of styling, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah. So that's about the design and build quality of this device. And let's move on to the display right here. So let's power on the device in a bit and take a look at the display. So the display on the A56 here is 6.7 inches, 1080p Super AMOLED, 120 Hz, and also supports HDR10 Plus, which is a big plus for those that like watching movies on their phone. And you also get 1200 nits of brightness, which is significant. Yeah, a significant upgrade from something like the Galaxy A54, which are, in my experience, when I compare them outdoors, I could tell that the A56 series is significantly brighter. So that's a very good addition. You're going to be, you know, using it comfortably outdoors, you know, in the sun, right? And that aspect ratio is also better. I feel like this bigger display with the 19.5:9 aspect ratio is better. You know, it's less cramped, and that means that you're going to enjoy your games better and also watch movies better. Yeah, you're going to have more screen to use right there. So I really like that. The aspect ratio on it, really good. You also get your horizon display, obviously. You can set that up in settings. I'll show you guys how to do that in separate videos. And you also get your in-display fingerprint scanner, which I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up again. I know most people know how to do this, but not everyone. Yeah. And some of the downsides though that I'll talk about here is you know, the bezels. Bezels are really big, and on top of them being big, they're uneven. You know, the lower bezel here is a bit bigger than the sides, so it's uneven, so that makes it look a little bit weird. But if I'm being honest, within hours of using this phone, I wasn't you know, it's not something that bothered me at all. Like, I totally forgot about it. So it's not something that should bother you that much. I don't know why some people make a big deal of it, but personally, not so much of a big deal, if I'm being honest. It's something that you get used to quickly and forget about. So for the display overall, I'll say that it's really good. But I think you can get better from the competition. The likes of the Xiaomi Note 14 Pro Plus, they offer higher resolution displays, curved. Those that love curved displays. Personally, I prefer this flat display. So, you know, it's more convenient for things like screen guards and stuff. So that's about the display. Really solid. Overall, for me, it's a pro. It's a plus when it comes to the display on the Galaxy A56. And for the performance, you have the Exynos 1580 4nm chipset, and I tried out 3D Mark, the benchmark on here, and I got decent results with it here. Really solid performance, and as you can see here, the stability was really good with this device, the frame rates. So overall, it performed really nicely, and I was comparing it to my A54 that I've been using, and I could tell that yeah, it almost doubled the score on it. So overall, I'll say that the performance on here is really solid. You know, for those that do video editing on your phones and stuff like that, you have faster storage in UFS 3.1, And you also get a 12 GB actually version of this phone, which I feel is overkill and unnecessary for most people at least. So the version I have here is the 8 GB RAM version, and it's very much sufficient. I've been playing games, as you guys have seen here. I've been playing these games, trying them out on this device, and I didn't really feel like I missed out on much when I was playing. Maybe the only time that you're going to feel terrible about this device is when you compare it to something else, maybe a flagship. But while you're using it, personally, I didn't really notice much. I don't play games that much anymore, but every time I play games on this, I didn't really have any issues. No frame drops. Even when I played eFootball at its max graphics settings, it's playing it okay, and it doesn't overheat actually in my experience. So that's about the performance on this. And it also has good RAM management. When you open up a lot of apps, it holds them for a long time. So overall performance is not an issue on the A50. So moving on to the software. So for the software, you have a One UI 7 based on Android 15, and you get up to 6 major Android upgrades, which is solid. So for the flagships, they get 7. For these mid-range phones, you get 6 years of upgrades, which is still very generous from Samsung, and a big deal. So one thing that I noticed with One UI 7, actually moving from One UI 6 on the A54, the first thing that I noticed was how much smoother it is, and also I like the redesigned icons. It feels really good, and the redesigned notifications area here, and the settings panel, really nice. I feel like it's more organized, and I also have an option to go back to the old one, like have your notifications and the quick settings panel in one instead of having them split. So really customizable and really good. And the other thing that I want to talk about, obviously, is the addition of good look for those of us who never had it. I know some regions have had this forever, but for us, we've just gotten it. So good look is a good addition, and it really adds a lot. Limitless customization for most of the things, and you can get back features that you lost in previous versions of One UI, like the three buttons and stuff like that for navigation. So overall, very nice. It's a big deal actually to get good lock on here. Usually we're using Fine Lock, which is I think a third-party app, but now we have the good lock, which is very good. Something that we have wanted for a long time, and maybe I'll be making a separate video on how to use that now that we have it in my region as well. Right, so the only bad thing I've noticed actually so far is that you're still running on the January patch, and usually these A50 series phones get patches every month, but we're still running on the January patch, as you guys are going to see. And since I bought this phone about a week back, I've been trying it out, and I haven't gotten any updates yet. So that tells you that Samsung is maybe struggling with One UI 7 rolling it out to other devices. So they haven't really put in much work. They haven't released patches for the A56 here. So they're really behind schedule when it comes to these software patches. And probably I feel like they would need to push out patches to update and optimize some features on the phone, such as the camera and all. But out of the box, I haven't gotten any updates yet, which is unusual for Samsung. So probably they're struggling with rolling out One UI 7 to other devices. But knowing Samsung and their track record is really good when it comes to software, so I believe they'll sort it out eventually, and everything will be fine. The only notable missing features when it comes to software here is obviously you're not getting the full Galaxy AI suite that you get with the flagships. Android 15 and the flagships, you get a lot of features there that you miss out on these mid-range devices. And also, you're not getting DeX. So Samsung has never actually offered DeX on these mid-range devices. So that's something that you don't get. At least they would have offered wired DeX like they offer on the FE series, but you don't get that here. So that's about the software experience. Overall, I would say that One UI 7 really improved the animations. It's something that I actually noticed immediately. Once I moved from my A54 to this phone, I noticed it immediately. The animations are much smoother. Overall, feels really good right here. So that's about the software. So let's move on to cameras. So for the cameras, up front here you get your 12 megapixel camera on 32. So that was downgraded from 32. But I actually feel like the cameras are not at the part that I feel is not that much improved. There's a difference in colors when I'm talking photos, comparing it to the A54, which I've had. I feel like I've noticed this color temperature, not really much in detail. So overall, the cameras, as you see on the front, not that much of a difference I've noticed. And the story doesn't really change. When you get to the back here, you get your 50 megapixel main camera, your 12 megapixel ultra wide, and your 5 megapixel macro camera. Similar setup to what have in the A54. I'm going to reference it a lot because that's what I've been using for the longest time, but I feel like the cameras on here are not that impressive. It's not something that is going to get you to upgrade to this from, say, the A54, A55. I feel like the cameras are just balanced. They're not really a pro, they're not really a con. We still don't get a telephoto, so it's really not that impressive in my experience here. So the cameras are not really the strongest point. You're still getting only 4K 30 FPS, which I've been getting for the last 5 years. So nothing really impressive when it comes to this. The ultra wide is still solid, but overall I'll say that the cameras, there isn't really much that has changed in that section when it comes to the cameras. So the cameras are really not the strong point of this phone. So if you have something like A55, A54, if you're moving over for cameras, I think you're going to be disappointed because I feel like they're very similar. The only difference I've noticed maybe in the camera UI versus the A54 is due to One UI 7, which the A54 is going to eventually get. So I think they'll be even closer than they are already. So when it comes to the cameras, not the strongest point on the A56 here. So overall, my verdict is it's just a balanced experience, really nothing special. It's not that bad and it's not that good either, not impressive. I think I want to be talking about is the battery. So the battery on this is still 5000 mAh, which sometimes I've been using for a long time. I think they upgraded that around the A53. But yeah, the battery life on here, so far it's actually, I feel like it's better than the A54 in my experience. A54 really had bad battery life, especially when you're using 5G. And on this, I feel like it's performing better, which I didn't expect given it's having a bigger display. But yeah, you still get 5000 mAh battery, which I feel like Samsung would have actually done a better job. With these silicon carbon batteries that are now available, and given that this phone is much bigger, 6.7, I think they would have fit something like 6000 mAh comfortably without issues to this device. But they have chosen not to do that. I know they will do that maybe in like 3 versions later. I think they just hold on to some upgrades for later versions of the phones. They don't want to give you everything all at once. But I think they could easily have a fit bigger battery here, or even better battery. But I think that Exynos 1580 is doing its part with efficiency with the 4 nanometer process. So surprisingly, this phone has very good battery life, even compared to the smaller A54, which I didn't expect. So solid, and they also have a nice bump in battery charging speed to 45 from 25 watts on the A55. And those phones before it, they are held on to 25 watts for a long time in the mid-range section here. Almost from the original A50, they were charging at 25. Now they have moved on to 45, which is impressive, a jump, but compared to the competition, it's still lagging behind significantly. So, whereas it's a good thing that they have jumped, you have a small noticeable jump in charging speed. But when you compare it to something like, again, the Note 14 Pro Plus from Xiaomi, it's not that impressive really. 45, many phones have 45. Even cheaper phones like the Camon 40 come with 45 watt charging, and the charger is even included in the box. So with this, you don't get the charger in the box. And also the charging speed is really, 45 is good, but it's a good improvement over the last generations. But compared to other releases from other manufacturers, I think the battery tech generally is still behind. But generally, I'll say that for the experience on here, it's much better. You have very good battery life and solid charging at 45 watts. So overall, I'll say that the battery life on here, very good. The battery experience is going to be okay, just balanced. I'm not going to give it a plus. I'm not going to say it's a pro because it's still lagging behind the competition, but better than the previous generations of this device. So that's about the battery. It's not something I'm going to be. So the other thing I want to talk about is the speakers on this. So the speakers on here are really good, and they sound really good. So let's see if I can listen to something. So So yeah, the speakers on the Galaxy A56 here are very solid. They are noticeably louder in my experience compared to A54, and also have better bass, deeper bass. So I think these are flagship level speakers. This is going to be battling flagships when it comes to sound experience. Very, very good. And lastly, I want to talk about connectivity. So the connectivity on this, you have dual SIMs and also supports eSIM now. You can add an eSIM to this phone, which is a big addition. And come here to connections, go to SIM manager, and that's where you'll find your eSIM settings right there. So it's a good addition. You also have eSIM support on the A56 rather, that was added obviously with A55. So that's solid that you have that, but you can only use 2 SIM cards at a time. Though you have 2 physical SIMs and eSIM, you can only use 2 SIMs at a time that are configured. Yeah, you can't use 3 SIMs, for example, just because you have eSIM. And the one noticeable change is the lack of SD card, I think, here when it comes to features. I think that's going to hurt a lot of people, because really Samsung took it out for no reason. They could easily have fit it in, but I decided to do away with it, and it's a noticeable, something noticeable that they have removed, and that's going to put off very many people. But I think that's where the industry is headed. The likes of Xiaomi have already removed it as well, so I think the time for SD cards is up when it comes to mobile phones. It's just a matter of time before they're gone for good, right? So talking about the call quality, I think so far so good. I haven't really noticed any issues. We still have voice focus, which is very good, and this also supports NFC, obviously, Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3. Solid. As I said previously, you don't get DeX, so that's a missing feature. And also wish that Samsung would add the S Pen to the A series. I don't know why they haven't thought of that. I think very many people buy into that idea. Having the S Pen on a mid-ranger would be very good, but I think they fear that would eat into the sales of the S25 Ultra series. So I think that's mostly that about this phone. The only thing I'm going to talk about extra here is in my region, you get the 256 Trove at around 410 USD, and the 256 with 8GB of RAM for around 380 US dollars, and 128 and 8GB of RAM for about 350 US dollars. So that's the pricing in my region here. And overall, I'm going to say that if you're moving from something like the Galaxy A55, I think the jump is significant. The jump is significant, especially in performance, but not in cameras. The cameras have stayed relatively similar in my experience. I haven't really noted much. And so far, the only thing that I've noted, compared to A54, for example, is that it has better animations, which is down to One UI 7, which I believe the A55 is also going to get. So maybe the other notable difference is the design and the bigger display, which is for me a plus. Not everyone likes bigger displays, so some people they may not like that. But overall, I think this is a really solid phone. If you're using the A55, I think this is not an upgrade. This is not an upgrade that is worth making. Maybe wait for the next generation of phones. The only notable changes maybe is the 45-watt charging, and maybe the design, the slight change in design. Mostly everything is similar, so I think for those using the A55, you can wait for the next version of the phone. But for someone that is buying, looking to buy a new A series device, I think this is a very, very good device. I wouldn't say that you buy the 12GB RAM version. I think that's overkill. For most people, you're not going to need that. But given that you don't have an SD card, you don't have SD card support here, I think it would make sense that you buy it with the max storage that you can get, which is 256GB. Have the best experience with it. Right, so I think that's overall my verdict on the Samsung Galaxy A56. So maybe let me give you guys a wrap up of the pros. So the pros of this device are the design and materials. Have aluminium, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, back and front. You also get a very good display in my experience. I like that it's wider and bigger, and it's also brighter, solid. The performance is also okay in my experience. with the Exynos 1580, and the software experience, as you have seen with Samsung year after year, very, very solid. I think that's one of the biggest advantages they have over the likes of Xiaomi and Tecno and Infinix. Their software is really complete, and often the updates come in on time, but I don't know, maybe they're having issues with One UI 7 rollout, so that's the only downside maybe with software. But overall, the software experience is best in class for me, even when you talk about the pixels, because I feel like the features that the pixels don't have that this provides. So in my experience, I prefer One UI 7 has really improved. So for the cons that I can talk about is the lack of a telephoto camera. Obviously, they could have added that easily. You also don't get a headphone jack for those that use it. It's a notable. And this time you have lost the SD card support. So for someone using the A55, you might reconsider moving over the A56 because you've lost SD card support. You also don't get DeX. Also get limited AI features, given this is not a flagship. And you get worse battery compared to the competition. Yeah, you're still getting 45-watt charging, which is nothing, nothing impressive in 2025 right now. I mean, phones charge at 120, 140. So 45 watts, really nothing impressive. So that's about the Galaxy A56. If you're buying it brand new, like you're just looking into the market and you want to get a solid mid-ranger, I think I would easily recommend this phone. But if you're comfortable using the software and Xiaomi, I think the Note 14 Pro Plus might actually give this phone a run for its money for the features it offers. But it offers more storage options and stuff like that. But if a person who's moving over from A54, there's a significant jump that is worth making, but you're not going to get much change in the camera experience. That's one place that you're not really going to be impressed. You're not going to be impressed with cameras if you're moving for the A54. But A55, if it was me personally, I wouldn't move to this one from the A55. They're really similar, and the A55 will soon get One UI 7, and that will make them even closer than they already are. So that's about the Galaxy A56. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.